Hey, this is going to be a short lesson on identifying key features of quadratic functions. Um, and also, this is why we can also call this why we factor, because why we factor is to help us find some of those key features, which we're going to talk about in the next lesson, where this is a real world function. All right, so the very first thing that I would want to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to multiply them out. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. Okay, x minus 1 and x plus 4. X times x is x squared. X times minus 1 is negative 1x. 4 times x is 4x. And then 4 times negative 4 is negative 4. So I'm going to use the box method, or I use the box method to show you the multiplying. And I'm going to try to write this really neat. Okay, x squared, first x squared, minus 1 plus 4 is going to be plus 3x, and minus 4. So basically I have two forms of the same quadratic function. I have the factored form, which are the two binomial factors, and I have the standard form. The standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and what we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to be looking at our factored form, what we get from our factored form, and what we can get from our standard form. But today the focus is, okay, so we have this graph. So I have a graph, and so if I can trace this, there's my graph. They put this on there for us. All right, so here's my quadratic. I'm going to eliminate that now because it didn't come out very pretty. All right, and so what we're going to do is we're going to identify our we're going to be identifying our key features. So you're going to see yellow. I have the yellow right there. You can see them marked on the graph. So I'm going to write up here the first thing I notice, and I notice that they are my x-intercepts because they are where we intersect the graph. Okay, the other thing is, I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, and x-intercepts, another word for x-intercepts are zeros, because that is where our, see if I can get this to come up, this is where we see our zeros. Okay, it's the value of y is 0, so we call them the zeros. We also call them the roots, because one thing that you're going to notice when I call the reason we call this the root is if I look at my factored form, you're going to notice that I have x minus 1, and I'm going to set that equal to 0, and I'm going to take x plus 4, and I'm going to set that equal to 0. And what you'll notice is that if I solve these equations, here x is going to equal negative 1, because negative 1 plus 1, I'm sorry, not negative 1, positive 1, because 1 minus 1 equals 0. For this, if I add, what plus 4 is 0? Negative 4 is 0. So x equals negative 4. X equals negative 4. So if you look on my graph where those yellow points are, you're going to notice that the first one is at negative 4, and the second one is at 1, which are our roots. And since I had to solve an equation to get my roots, we also call these the solutions. So if you look down on towards the bottom of this sheet, you're going to see those 4 words all together. Roots, because that's where we see in the factors. X-intercepts, because that's where it crosses the x-axis. Zeros, because y equals 0. And solutions, because we have to solve the roots to find the solutions, to find where they actually are going to be on that graph. So our first key feature are our x-intercepts, which go by 3 other names. Okay, our second key feature is going to be in green. And if you can see this green feature right there, that is the bottom of our graph. Since it's the bottom of our graph, it's also the point where we go down and then we change directions. So that is a special point that we call the vertex. And since it is the bottom point, we call it the minimum, because if you look, there is no lower point on this graph because it changed directions. It's going to be going back up. So if I look down here at my word bank, I'm going to see that I have vertex, which is also the minimum. Those are the two words for the same thing. Now you're going to see, oh, okay, now I have one word for one thing. So let's start with the blue. Okay, the blue is tracing the line that divides my graph in half. This is called the axis or the line of symmetry. Okay, so we could call it the axis, which is another word for line of symmetry. Oops, symmetry. All right, and it goes right through it. And if you notice, the axis or the line of symmetry always goes through the vertex. Okay, the purple one is what we've seen many times. If you look right there, it is where it is crossing the y-axis. So our fourth key feature is our y-intercept. And when we were doing that with linear functions, we would talk about the y-intercept as the beginning point in a real-world function. It basically is that it serves that same function in quadratic, which we're going to see in the very next lesson. All right, so our lesson today, this was a lesson on key features of quadratic functions. These were the notes. You're going to have the second page of this. You're going to see that you have another one to complete. I'm going to ask you to complete this one on your own using the notes that you took on the first one. So good luck with that. And when you finish with this one, tune in for our key features in real life lesson. Thank you for listening.